for as long as I can. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Looks like we just got live, so we're going to give everybody a few more minutes to hop on at 12. But welcome to our panel conversation, everyone. To make sure you're in the right place, for those who just signed in, this is the Latinx Participation in the U.S. Workforce panel hosted by RiseKit with our fun panelists here. But we'll give everybody a few minutes to hop in. Screen. And then I'm going to set up my screen here just to make sure people feel that they're for sure in the right place. But we'll get going right at 12 o'clock. Okay. It might be the last kind of warm weekend in Chicago. So 50s is still warm for us, even though everyone's saying it's going to be a rough one.
Y'all, so I'm in Texas. So I broke out my sweater yesterday. We were at 79 degrees. I was like, sweater weather. I was very excited. This weekend, we're going to have a high of 70s. We're starting off the morning in the 50s. I am beyond thrilled.
A sweater in 70s? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I did have to kind of run the AC a little bit, just like a couple of degrees higher than what I'm used to, but you have no idea how much I was waiting for this like 79 degree weather. It is not 109 degrees, so I'm excited.
If it says 70, I'll wear shorts and like a tank top. That's amazing that you wear a sweater.
It probably was not the right time, but I've been looking at my sweaters for a month now, and I've just been waiting. I'm like, please, I just want to wear a sweater and Ugg boots, please.
Jessie, I recommend to never live in Chicago. I don't know if you could handle a 60.
I was going to invite you to come to Chicago.
I can visit y'all to get away from the heat in Texas, but I'm not a snowbird at all.
I actually went to San Antonio in February, and it was almost below here in Chicago, and it was almost 85, 90 degrees there in San Antonio. So very jealous of that warm weather all year round.
Yeah, San Antonio is a great place to be. I love San Antonio. Pop on down there as many weekends as we can. Yeah.
Well, I will try to wear a jacket one day in the 70s. I like that challenge.
You're gonna lose some weight. You're gonna sweat some stuff off. It's fine. Yeah.
Well, it's 12:01. Thanks everyone at LinkedIn Live for hopping on. Just to make sure you're in the right place again, this is the Latinx Participation in the U.S. Workforce panel conversation. It's part of RiseKit Inclusion's webinar, RiseKit Inclusion Network's webinar series. We have about a webinar every month, and it's about all topics around DEI, apprenticeships, recruiting, culture, and everything. So we're really grateful for you all to be on. So just to give you some expectations for today, you're going to be really listening to our leaders here, our leaders that are on this panel, Jessie, Ed, and Sergio. The main goal is that you're going to learn a lot. We're going to ask questions around high-level data all the way to best practices and implementation ideas. You have 3 rock stars that I've gotten to know, as well as our team has gotten to know along the way. Before we get right into the panel and do introductions, I have to do a quick word about RiseKit and who we are and what we're up to. And so just to give a quick summary, I'm the CEO and founder of RiseKit. I'm Matt Strauss. We help companies and employers save time finding overlooked and diverse talent from community organizations. So we make it really easy for companies to source not just from 1, 2, 3, or 4 or 5 community partners, but to get to hundreds of community partners through technology and integrations. We're live in Chicago, OKC, and Memphis, and we're getting ready to expand across the country in the next year here. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But I want to give a quick shout out to our Inclusion Network. So this is recently led by Naveed, who also set up this whole panel conversation. Our Inclusion Network is all about our partners. So we really built RiseKit because we all believe that no matter what zip code somebody grew up in, they deserve equal access to opportunities. Everyone that's in DEI cares about this leading indicator of poverty, or one leading indicators. Whether you help people with that are Hispanic, whether you help people that are African American, have disabilities, veterans, no matter what population somebody cares about, this is that leading fact that we all work so hard about. And so we've built a network of partners and team members that really come together, where we have awesome events, panel conversations like this, and just have fun and refer ideas together, partners together, so we all can keep growing. So feel free to reach out to RiseKit if you want to learn more about our inclusion network or just our business and our software. So without further ado, though, we're all here for a good panel. And so I am the founder and CEO of RiseKit, but I'm going to be doing just really the questions today and letting our leaders do the talking. So I'm going to start off by handing it over to Jessie for a quick introduction, and then we'll go to Sergio, and then Ed.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much, Matt. So my name is Jessie Camarillo. I live in Austin, Texas. I went to school at UT Austin, Hook 'em Horns, for all you Longhorns out there. I work at Workforce Solutions Capital Area. Our whole mission is to connect local people to local jobs. And my purview is convening tech executives in the region so that we understand the opportunities, the challenges, the excitement, whatever trends are coming up, so that we can be prepared to fill future pipelines. So my purview is very much strategic development, long-term planning, and my background is or I guess my love of the position comes from my transition from non-tech industry work into the perimeters of tech industry work. So I was living paycheck to paycheck, let's say paycheck to 4 days before the next paycheck, and then transitioned into the tech sector here in Austin, Texas, and it completely changed the way I talk about money, think about money. My salary increased to where I could have a living wage for a family of 4, and I just absolutely love the tech industry here regionally. They're great people, great opportunities, and that's why I'm excited about connecting Latinos into the tech industry.
Austin is lucky to have you. That's an amazing story, and bringing your passion to help increase diversity in the space. Sergio?
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Sergio Serratos. I'm originally from Mexico City. I moved to Chicago 9 years ago, and I have a college degree in communications from Mexico, and also I got an MBA from Walden University in Minnesota. As you can see, I'm the recruitment marketing specialist at United Ground Express, which is a subsidiary of United Airlines. I'm new. I just got this job, but I have been doing this type of jobs for the last 3 years, and that consists in finding new strategies to attract new talent across the board, like working, making partnerships with RiseKit, for example, with organizations like RiseKit. So that's one of my jobs. And I'm very excited because right now I'm working across the country. So I'm trying to bring talent to every single airport where United Ground Express provides services. So that's very exciting and very challenging for me, but I'm very happy that I have this opportunity.
Congrats on the new job. It's been awesome
Thank
seeing
you.
you grow in your career. And
Thank you so much.
And Ed?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ed Cabezas, and I am with World Business Chicago. I am part of the talent workforce side of the house. I am also a board member for the Illinois Local Government Hispanic Network as part of its membership team. And I'm also with Lead for America as their Illinois Regional Outreach recruiter. I've also just completed a fellowship with them. I got into workforce as a whole in general. One of my first positions was at the National Latino Education Institute here in Chicago. I hold a degree in political science from Northeastern Illinois University with a minor in philosophy, and I have a fair housing, fair lending certificate through UIC's laws program. Um, yeah, my background from my university is what started my interest specifically in workforce and kind of getting into that. I come from a blue collar background. My family has worked in manufacturing. In fact, I have two brothers in manufacturing. My father and uncle. I have two uncles and two brother-in-laws who are in truck driving, distribution, logistics. So, we come from that hardworking background, and ever since then, I kind of I've been involved in the workforce. I'm kind of I've had a great ability to mold a career out of opportunities. I've worked in Fortune 500s, including big tech at Uber Corporate and then Abbott Laboratories as well. So I've had a wide exposure to a lot of different industry experiences at a lot of different components and divisions of the company.
Love it, Ed. And since we just had you talk, I'm going to ask the first question to you. So, can you share any key stats or trends regarding the representation of Latinx individuals in the U.S. workforce and how it has evolved over the years?
Yeah, that goes to me first.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So one of the most important stats that I know is that by 2030, 35.9 million Latinos will be as part of the workforce. We have 6 states that currently make a quarter of its population. Illinois is targeted to be one of them. Right now, it would probably end up being either its seventh or its eighth, and it's looking like that for the city of Chicago in particular. The city of Chicago, we represent about 30% of the population. And there's various stats for Hispanic workers, right? And one of the things you were talking about is lifting all boats, talking about the different communities involved in what DEI really means, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. I don't want to get into the specifics of what that means, but our particular community itself encompasses a lot of those particular communities. We are veterans, we are people with disabilities, we are part of the LGBTQ community. We have a various and a plethora of different Latinos. We even have Afro Latinos, which we'd never want to forget about, right? We want to mention our Caribbean brothers and sisters. But yeah, these are important stats because it represents a reflection of the U.S. community and the consumer base, where corporations definitely need to focus and begin to not only hire at the entry level. We want to talk about DEI at a higher level, right? We want us in the boardroom. We want us in director positions. We want us in CEO positions, leadership positions, where we can influence what happens.
I love it. You're getting me the chills there. Go ahead, Jessie.
Yeah. Yeah, all the snaps. And I love that. We need to make sure that folks are being represented at all levels of the business community. So in Austin's purview, we are a little bit different from the rest of the nation, and that's because we Latinos are growing at a much slower rate here in Austin. So over the last decade, we've grown about 20% versus 50% nationally. And in that same decade, unfortunately, the Latino population in Travis County and Austin has shrunk by about 3 percentage points. And a lot of that has to do with affordability in our area. And so, Ed, with your certificate, I'd be really interested in having more conversations about that. But, there's a lot of folks who, while Latinos and the below age of 18 demographic are making up a majority of that younger demographic, we're still seeing a decline in births. We're seeing Latino families moving out of the Austin metropolitan area. And so we have a lot of work to do internally in Austin, Texas, to retain the individuals that are coming up for the next generation of Latino workers. If we also break down our community into subsects here in Austin, we see that a large majority of Latinos are coming from Mexican descent. And then we've also got Hondureños, Guatemalans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, Salvadorans. So I think that is a really important piece to understand as well about your region, in addition to all the different types of diverse subsets within the Latino culture that, Ed, you were talking about, knowing the background and descent of what Latinidad means for the majority of your population and understanding what that minority means. Super important for all business leaders who are interested in bringing on Latinos into their workforce. One last thing that I'll say, and it has to do with that affordability piece, is that Austin is one of the most educated cities in the country. Very proud of that fact. Unfortunately, there's a disparity that continues to affect Latinos and Black Austinites, where they are seeing less graduates from from 4-year institutions. So one example of that is in Austin specifically, 76.9% of non-Hispanic white Austinites have a 4-year degree. That's compared to 32.5% of Latinos in the same area. And that's negatively impacting our ability to earn a higher income, which comes out to, on average, around 77,000 a year for Latinos in our area compared to 103,000 for non-Hispanic white Austinites. So that's a huge disparity that we really need to work on, and we're trying to figure out and implementing initiatives into place so that we can retain folks and make sure that they're getting a living wage.
Awesome. Um, and so I'll go to the next question here. Are there any specific industries or sectors where Latinx representation is particularly lacking, and what strategies can be implemented to address this imbalance? Jessie, you want to go next, or Sergio? Whoever wants to go first there.
I
Jessie,
can
go.
continue talking and
Yeah,
then I'll pass it over to Sergio.
perfect.
So, my purview, like I mentioned in the intro, is the tech industry here in Austin. So, that we all know is very much a white industry, white, male dominated, older Austinites in our industry. So, right now, how it breaks down in our area, we've got 51,000 más o menos, right? Non-Hispanic whites in the IT industry. And that's not just technical background jobs, those are operational occupations as well in Austin, compared to folks who are identifying as 2 or more races. We've only got a little over 4,000 individuals in the Austin, Texas region that are in the tech industry in whatever capacity that is. So that goes up to a little over 11,000 when you're including individuals who are Latino and identify as only one um, race. So that goes up to over 11,000, but completely just not even in the ballpark of where we see our non-Hispanic brothers and sisters in tech. And so what we're doing is helping employers, business leaders adopt and integrate skills-based hiring practice. So traditionally, we see a lot of tech occupations that are requesting 4-year degrees and X number of years of experience. We provide resources, trainings, workshops, consultations to employers so that they can start integrating a skills-based hiring practice that disregards the lack of education and really focuses on what kind of skills are verifiable to get those folks into the workplace. And that's both with entry level jobs and then upskilling as well. To your point, Ed, right? Once they're in the entry level job, that's great. How do we make sure that we're continuing to upskill them, giving them promotions, encouraging employers to provide tuition assistance so that they can eventually get to that 4-year degree? And so there's a lot of resources that just our board offers, and that gets compounded once you look at other regional partners like RiseKit, for example, right? So, and another piece is social currency. In our area, at least, we see that it's not only, it's not, you have to know your stuff. You also need to know the players in the game. And so providing that social currency, opening the door for other Latinos to come in and say, yes, you do belong in these networking events. Yes, you do belong in these thought leadership conversations about AI and, cybersecurity and all of whatever niche they're interested in. That's a huge piece of my personal work and passion, is making sure that I'm getting
Yeah.
enough potential techies into that social aspect
You know,
too.
I'd love to piggyback specifically on the tech component, what you were talking about. So in the city of Chicago, I've mentioned, right, we have as of far, it's like about 13, 14,000 new jobs that are occurring in the particular sector of information technology, right? I know you hear layoffs, big tech is doing this and that, but in reality, the tech industry is growing, the information technology sector is growing through manufacturing, through food manufacturing, because those jobs are no longer just assembly line work. It is now technical. You need skills, you need access to software, you need to understand these things, artificial intelligence, robotics. And so I know a couple of great organizations that are doing work. Latinx DLN is doing cybersecurity work, trying to give Latinos an up, right? Giving them opportunity, as she had mentioned, a pathway, right? A skill certificate, removing a barrier into entry, right? And what we find is that once you have a entry into a decent job, right? Cybersecurity job, you and you get that exposure to industry, it then enables the individual to try to then maybe potentially go into a 2-year program or a 4-year program. And then this is how a pathway, a career path, and a promotion and getting into the leadership gets made, right? It is a complex route, the workforce system, and understanding the complexities of particular communities like ours and the challenges that we face, because very unique community, very, as we had mentioned, diverse. But we do, even those diversities, those differences and the approaches, we have superpowers. One of our superpowers is being passionate, guys. The passion for what we are, for our community, for our homes, for our family. We sing, we dance, but we also work hard. That is one of our best stereotypes. We work hard, but you don't want employers that take advantage of your hard work. You want them to reward it. We want them to say automatically, wow, I have an individual that I know comes from this background that I know is going to give me their full effort. Is going to do it so passionately because they do it for love of family, love of country, love of self. And if we don't focus on these particular in our groups, right, that's why we're a subset growing group. And we ignore it. And by the way, Matt, thank you so much for having us on this panel. I just want to let you know, definitely an ally. We want to include people like Matt always in the conversation and give them recognition where it's due. But yeah, sorry.
Ed for mayor, love that. Sergio?
Yeah, I wanted to add really quick. I mean, just like the tech industry, I think that me coming from the healthcare industry, I think that's another area where we're lacking Latinx professionals. And it was really hard before here in Chicago to find providers and nurses that are bilingual speakers. And like this industry is expanding constantly, so we really were not like providing enough services for our Latinx community here in Chicago. So we were and this is not only this is not really impacting our professionals, but it's also impacting our patients, because it was really hard for them to find like high quality healthcare assistance. So some of the things that we started doing was probably like me as a member of the talent acquisition team, I started translating our job description. So maybe we could offer and reach out to this Latinx community, but it was really hard, and one of the reasons is just like my two peers here, they said it's because our community here, they might not have access to those degrees, so it was really hard to like maybe motivate them. So one of the other things that the company was doing is like maybe providing more tuition reimbursement programs, or we were even like helping people from other countries, specifically from Latin America, to move here and then just start working. People that were bilingual, of course, but we were paying all the expenses so they could like relocate here in Chicago. And this was like very, I think this is a very good initiative, because it was motivating other people here in the States to complete their degrees and just maybe continue helping our community.
I love that. And so the next question, I'm going to kind of give a little summary from us before I go through it and get handed over to Jessie. But what are some of the unique challenges Latinx job seekers face in terms of recruitment and employment opportunities? And how can organizations address these challenges? So I'll give you one example that we see at RiseKit. A lot of our job seekers have the skills, sometimes even the degrees too, right? But unfortunately, due to a lot of barriers put in their way, by the system per se, right, or by challenges that this country has faced with diverse candidates, that ends up leading to a lack of confidence, in themselves. That then leads to a lack of the ability at times to translate those skills into the job that they can have, right? So a lot of opportunity, is there. But I'm curious to hear, from you, Jessie, first, and then we'll kind of go around, again.
Yeah, what a good point. Um, we already discussed some of the unique challenges. I think I'm not going to go into that again as far as like the confidence education displacement because of affordability, all of that good stuff. But one of the things that organizations can do to address those challenges, your example, Matt, they're lacking confidence. What does that translate to in real time? That translates to employers coming to us and to tell us, well, these individuals are not interview ready. Well, what are you doing as an employer to make sure that you are supporting them before they get to the point of interviewing? This is where that social currency that I was talking about comes into play. Are you inviting them to the circles where the stakes are not as high? Are you inviting them to the forums where they can listen into the conversation, see how the industry talks about things, what kind of buzzwords there are, ask questions in that low stakes environment so that they can build the confidence to be interview ready. Like that for me, I constantly try to bring it back to the employer, right? We have you raised your hand to ask for help, support, resources, consultation sessions from places like your local workforce board, from RiseKit, from Rework America Alliance. There's hundreds of thousands of resources available in each region of the United States, and employers will come to you and say, well, they're not interview ready. We don't know where to find the pool. It's easy to get rid of the degree requirement, but how do you get rid of like the previous job experience piece? Ask these questions in a low stakes environment before you open up your job rec to the Latino population or to any diverse population, right? So what we do at Workforce Solutions is we have integrated professional development with our hiring events. So folks can come to us, go to a hiring event, um, not only meet with the people who are the employers who are currently hiring, but we have volunteers from industry come in to provide things like mock interviews, resume review, 15-minute mentoring so that the stakes are lower and they're hearing from boots on the ground industry leaders and people who are practitioners to get them ready for that first interview. So it's an investment and there's no magic pill, magic document that employers can put into place that'll magically make it happen. There's time, there's a financial investment as well that needs to go into these communities so that they can be ready for um, not only the interview, but what comes after, right? To get the job done, know that they need to be resilient and be able to put that into practice in real life.
Awesome. Ed?
Yeah, so we can list off a couple of them, a couple of main ones, and it sounds so cliche, but it's something that organizations still do to this day. It's just biases and stereotyping, right? If you don't train your staff, especially your recruiting teams, your decision makers, that there is implicit bias in the way we view things as human beings. This is not something to shun. This is not, and everyone will tout, sensationalized media and woke and this and that, but the reality is human beings are biased, right? We prefer our own, right, whatever that looks like. But one of the things about diversity, equity, inclusion, if you break down these words, right, diversity, right, what diversity does for business is good. It is proven that diversity is great for the bottom line. Okay. Diversity, equity. What is equity? Equity is different from equality because we don't all start from the same place, right? We need a place where we can all see over the wall. Okay. And Latinos, for example, if you come from a first, second generation, you have a bunch of barriers that somebody that was born in this country does not have. Just automatically. Language barriers, immigration barriers, so many other things, right? Comprehension towards that. And I'll give you another, just even approach in a workplace, like me personally. So, and I'll talk a tragic story. I've had family members die there where my cousins, I grew up with them. They're not considered part of the bereavement process. You're not allowed to file for them. Yet I grew up with this person. I saw them at every holiday. They are close to me as my brother and sister, right? So if you don't understand the particulars of the community you're trying to target with these small implicit, if you don't train these staff and you don't provide them tools, that, and again, lack of representation, guys. If we don't see ourselves there in the leadership team, you can diversity committee all day long. It does not mean anything. And guess what? If it's good for business and you're touting this, then use it. You have a unique perspective with these individuals, right? And beyond that, salary disparities. Latinas, and I'll give you a great salary disparity. Latinas in governance, which is one of the largest employers in the country, right? Government makes 64 cents per dollar as opposed to anyone else. And that's since the 1970s. Stats like these need to be addressed head on.
Can I add to something that you said, Ed, and also give a shout out to Sergio as well? So there are, I guess it does connect both of what you were just saying, Ed, and Sergio, what you said earlier. Something as simple as translating the job description and making sure that you're doing that thoughtfully is going to be a huge win. And there is, like, you have to put investment into that, time and finances. You can't just put it into chat GPT, expect it to be spit out and copy and paste that into a job description, right? So be thoughtful about it. Something as simple as translating documents that you have for your workforce into multiple languages, that's going to be a huge win, and people notice that. But yeah, so well done, Sergio, for saying that y'all worked on that as well.
Thank you. And I want to add something, one of the unique challenges too, because, as you know, I'm one of those Latinos that come from other country, and I'm trying to, grow professionally here in this country. So one of those challenges, this question resonated with me very well because it's credential recognition. So many of our friends from those countries, Latin America, they come sometimes with degrees from other countries. But something I was facing all the time, and I found that other people were facing the same challenge, is organizations, they don't recognize credential recognition is very it's an issue because they were like, well, this person is coming with a communications degree from our country, but they don't know the university. And I'm telling you that a lot of these universities in Latin America are very well are accredited. They are very well known. So I think something that organizations here in the United States can start doing is expanding the access to all those universities and just making lists and just like maybe reviewing, maybe having they can send surveys to their employees and be like, hey, you're coming from our country, you have a degree from this country, tell us what university. So we can do a little bit more research and maybe just maybe start recognizing all these people that come from other places. As I said, I had an MBA here, but that was not until I get an MBA here is when I wasn't recognized. So I know a lot of people are struggling and they face that challenge. So yes, I just wanted to mention it.
So many barriers that we don't even think about. So I really appreciate you sharing that, Sergio. Before I forget it, at 12:45, everyone that's listening in, we've had about 20 to 30 viewers come on so far. So appreciate you. Feel free to put any questions in. At 12:45, we'll be sharing any audience questions for our panelists here. On the next question, in what ways can recruiters and employers effectively reach and engage the Latinx talent with that Latinx talent to ensure diverse and inclusive hiring practices? We'll have Ed go first.
So very easily for me, we were mentioning education credentials. We have HSIs, guys. We have Hispanic serving institutions that touch a lot of us, right? If it wasn't for an HSI, I wouldn't have the ability to even be speaking with you today. My education through the HSI was top tier. If you tap into organizations, local organizations, the community itself, you show up to job fairs where we're at, when we're throwing our fiestas, right? You will have a large opportunity to connect with our community, guys. You will be invited to the carne asada every weekend as long as you reach out, guys. You know what I mean? So it's not as complex as people think. What you can do on a corporate level, on a higher level, is utilize a diversity board, right? And diversify your board. Make sure that it looks like that. So that voice is heard, so it's understood. What's another thing? You can attend and kind of tap into those communities that throw those diversity recruiting fairs that is specifically targeting a particular community, which is great, and not in a bad way. You're not targeting in a bad way. You're targeting in a very intentional, very positive way. You can also, by the way, leverage social media, Matt. You know what I mean? If you get the right conversation going, that's another excellent tool, because you're signaling to the community, hey guys, I'm welcoming, I'm looking for you.
Agreed. And next we had Jessie.
Yeah, y'all took all of my points, but I guess I can add on that. So connecting with regional resources is a huge um, um, benefit for employers in the region. So a lot like RiseKit, there's local boards in every state in the United States where they're the hub and will maximize your outreach for you so that you are connecting with multiple pipelines with minimal effort. So raise your hand and ask that question. I already talked about skills-based hiring. One of the examples for that, we were talking about degrees. Um, I was meeting with an employer recently who showed us their job description, and it says bachelor's degree or um, X amount of years of experience interchangeably. And as easy as switching that around would be really interesting, right? So your job description says experience or bachelor's degree in place of that experience, right? Really interesting ways to play with that. The translation we already talked about. When you touched on social media, Ed, I think that that's a huge opportunity where individuals in your marketing department can get really excited about a campaign that may be going out. And it can be as easy as making sure that you're including individuals in the images that you are targeting. In one example of that, we had one company here who was looking to, it was a very hands on job. They were looking to hire on or target women in Austin, and very hands-on. You had to be able to lift a ladder. You were outside, um, and you also had to have the technical experience. So they saw a decline until their marketing team thought, well, A, what's the lightest that we can purchase? What's the lightest ladder we can purchase? And B, how many women can we get to like don the hard hat and carry the ladder and put that on our, on our social media channels? And they saw a huge uptick just with the small change like that. So that involve your marketing team. I think that they would be really excited to kind of brainstorm with you. The sky's the limit type of mentality, see what sticks. I think the other piece is um, Ed, you touched on this a little bit. Latinos are very interested in making sure that they are successful, not just for them, but for their families, for their community, whoever it is that um, that they're beholden to, that they love. Um, One of the ways that we express that is through entrepreneurship. And so when you are a company who is engaging with the Latino community, make sure that you are being appreciative of the work while you have them in their workforce, but let them know that you're there to support them, connect them. You've just built a company. Can you be their mentor so that they can reach the next level of success, whatever that means to them? So not only do we want to see the Latinos on boards and leadership positions, we want to see Latinos creating more of their own companies, and those they're abundant now with the proper resources, support, connections, money. Um, that we can compound that and create millions of more jobs. The last thing that I'll say is I just touched on it a little bit. Money. Budgets are super important. Ed, you talked about your diversity panel, your diversity board. It means nothing if they don't have a budget. So give them the resources that they need to make change happen and to try ideas So there's a lot of different organizations who will put in a DEI officer.
Right.
If they don't have a budget, it really doesn't mean anything.
It's a great position too because it touches on a lot of these kind of topics, right? And one of the things that somebody like a diversity officer would do is would do an engage employee resource group, right? And then create a mentorship path with people that are like them within the corporation. There again, the solutions are there. There's frameworks, guys, and this is why I had mentioned it's good for business. All you got to do is copy and get leaders. I convened the Fair Chance Hiring Roundtable with uh, decision makers, right? And what they were doing is learning from each other. They were listening to what is applied, what are the steps. So create an action plan, have a strategy. And by the way, guys, a strategy is different from a plan, right? A strategy is what leverages you above the competition, and diversity is one of those things.
Love it. Um, and so I'm going to hand this one over to Sergio next. This next question. Can you provide examples of successful diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that have specifically targeted Latinx inclusion in the workplace?
Sure, of course. Again, as a member of the talent acquisition team, I think one of those initiatives is hosting community events, but it's not just hosting those events. I think it's important for employers to really seek for feedback from the Latinx community. And the reason is because we want to make sure that we are listening to their concerns, but we are also addressing those concerns. So I think it's important that we just like engage with our employees and we're really like giving them answers and solutions. And like Ed said, like we are like creating strategies to like just like really accomplish something that is gonna really bring a change and it's gonna make the work culture more inclusive and diverse. Another thing initiative, and this is again something that we have been talking about. It's maybe providing more scholarships and financial aid. Something I saw here in this country is also like my community is facing a lot of like financial barriers. But if we provide that, we can set them up for success. And this is also going to motivate them to continue or like reach those career goals that they want to accomplish. And also in the long term, which is going to help them to like not face like those financial barriers that they are like facing right now.
Awesome. Ed, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so it's this is the same question, right? We're still on
Successful diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that have specifically targeted Latinx inclusion in the workplace.
successful initiatives that I know of that I can talk off the right off the top of my head. I would say that let me give you a couple of examples of top corporates that are doing this right now. So one of the top markets, I mean, because we love the Fiesta, right? Is what is it? Constellations Brands has cornered the beer market, right? It is dominating the sales because it has acknowledged the community, its advertising, its marketing, its recruiting team, its whole thing is just, again, it's focusing on the business, right? If we focus on the numbers and we use the case of diversity for business, you're able to make these cases like this. We have successful companies like Reyes Group. So I have some local partners that I could talk about. As you had mentioned, that they opened up their own company, Diaz Group. Shout out to you guys, SSA 39. Those guys built their stuff from the ground up. They started with a landscaping company. Now they're working and they're contracting for the city all over the place. And this is how it's done, right? And with the proper, again, if you don't need to recreate the wheel, the template is there. Take it.
Yeah, I love seeing when marketing budgets tie hiring as well as selling their products. So it's really cool. For the last question for today, then we'll hand it over to the audience. How important is cultural competency and awareness for recruiters and HR professionals when interacting with Latinx job candidates and employees? I'll hand it over to Jessie.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Obviously, it's very important. One of the things that I think we've touched on more than one time, which shows how important it is, Latinos themselves are a very diverse group of people. So when you're thinking about what kind of cultural competency training you're going to be bringing into your company, I think that you need to survey your company, your city, your region, figure out who is making up the Latino community in your area and what your goals are. So just be very thoughtful about what cultural competency means, and how you build out that training program. With the age of AI, generative AI coming into town, and really gaining adoption at a level that we've never seen before, I think the other piece of it is making sure that you're being very thoughtful about how you're curating the messaging that you are using to support your company's mission, your employment mission and vision. So in this age of AI, where every position is no longer going to be focused on creation, we're going to be really focused and intentional about curation and editing. So making sure that you're thinking critically about anything that crosses your desk, anything that people tag you in on social media, any kind of consultant partner that you're bringing in for those kinds of trainings. Just think critically about it, because there's the right fit for different organizations, for different regions in the United States. And so each kind of competency, cultural competency training is going to add a different flavor that may be a plus or minus depending on where your business is located.
Got it. And Ed, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so if you have an organization that does have that cultural competency component, you'll see it. You'll see it there. You can perform an audit. The numbers will reflect it. One of the great things about World Business Chicago is that you see that. As soon as you walk in, you see the plethora of the United States there. Every type of different person is in our organization, and it provides a rich atmosphere. It provides thought-provoking conversations. It provides innovation. It provides just a change in ideal, and also something to look up to, guys. People, when they see an organization that way, they're like, man, they're really unique. Those guys, they walk in and they're so different, but so them, and that's a strength. That cultural competency right there at that HR level is highlighting that, right? And shout out to Carrie Simmons, she's doing a great job at World Business.
And I think that really represents what an organization is doing, because they are showing, they're showing value and respect for these communities. When you are able to do this and practice awareness about other cultures, I think that you get that feeling of like respect, as I was saying, and but it's like you are respecting like their backgrounds, their experiences, their perspectives. So that really makes to keep those memories, like they're saying, like, oh yeah, those peers were really good, like that just feels like good and very very like very motivating to just like continue working with these people.
Yeah, I'm going to add to that as well, because what y'all were saying just spurred something else. I think cultural competency can be a springboard to curiosity, and making sure that you have a really strong foundation so that anybody at any level of the organization and your company feels comfortable saying, you know what, I don't know as much as I would like to about X subject. Let me self empower. Let me research on my own, and then come back to ask questions to say, am I sure? Am I understanding this correctly? Or is this your experience? So gather the data, validate it with your employees, but all of that needs to be done in a space where that cultural competency is really strong, and there's a foundation of mutual understanding, and then building off of that is extremely important.
Awesome. We're gonna definitely end at in 14 minutes from now, but we do have a couple questions from the audience, and audience, feel free to keep sending in questions. And we'll also, end with something inspirational about how you want to help Latinx populations rise. So we'll end with that, at the end of this conversation. But then the question from the audience: are companies exploring launching a DI initiative to recruit and retain more Latinx candidates? What would you recommend as the best first 1, 2, or 3 steps to get this initiative going? Any takers?
Audit, plan, and mentorship, sponsorship.
And when you say audit, though, can you expand on like what to look for? I know you did a little bit before, but if you could, what if like there's just not enough Latinx diversity already at the company? So maybe do you have two examples? One, there's let's just say 10% of the talent at the company's Latinx, and the other is there's almost 0%. Like, how would you do two different audits there?
So if you're at 0%, then you don't even need to do the audit, right? You could just automatically please diversify your workforce. It's good for business. And then especially depending on the type of corporation. Now, if you're a corporation that's entirely making, a quarter, a half of your sales on this population, you definitely need to tap into it. If you do have some, Latinx talent, then do the audit on where they're located in the company. What kind of influence do they have? Are they in leadership? Can they make decisions? Are they empowered? And if not, why? Those are the way the audits work. Audits don't necessarily need to be in just numbers. They could be through surveys, right? And looking for honest feedback, not from them, from those particular employees that already exist.
I like
By
this.
the way, these conversations sometimes at times will be uncomfortable, guys. And that is part of it, though. That is feeling that and knowing that means you're in the right direction, because truth is not always pleasant.
Yeah, it sounds like an anonymous survey is a good first step there too to get insider feedback. Any other recommendations before we move on to the next question? There's another couple.
I plus one on what Ed just mentioned, but also, um, again, I'll restate it. Reach out to the community and see um, where these folks are convening, and there needs to be a healthy push and pull, right? So, what can you get yourself invited to? Like Ed said, the carne asada. What can you get yourself invited to so that you can get to know folks? And then also, how are you marketing the conversations where you are at and making sure that you're inviting those folks in as well? So, um, yeah, plus one for everything that Ed discussed.
Next question is, and this might be a yeah. What are the best ways to engage leadership or the decision makers at your company to focus on Latinx recruiting and retention? How would you recommend starting the conversation? Because it can be a tough conversation. Do you have any ways of best practices? I know it probably depends on the company size, of course, but just curious what you've seen before, or what ideas you've seen.
I thought,
I'll
go ahead. No,
go ahead, Ed.
you go
No,
first.
I was gonna write on your coattails a little bit to just say, if you are doing those audits, if the department is doing those audits that Ed was talking about, that gives you really great ammunition to be able to go in and say, here are the numbers, here's the data for our internal company, here's the data for companies that are similar to ours in our region, and start the conversation with that report. And then it also doesn't help. I mean, it also doesn't hurt to let leadership know, that special number. You diversify your workforce to a certain extent, and that you're going to gain another 19% in revenue. Like, how much money do you want to leave on the table?
I'll do one of these. Well done. I don't have the good form. That was good. Ed?
So yeah, what I've seen, I worked with a corporation. They were able to bring on consulting group to kind of discuss that after the uncomfortable conversation, right? They were able to bring it on and kind of discuss the dynamics and what makes an effective workflow and why these particular issues arise, or why a particular group isn't rising, right? If you have those consulting groups, if you have access to capital that way where you can execute with an outside party, because sometimes when we're in our own echo chambers of the company, we're not able to see, sometimes it takes a step back and somebody to give you objective feedback. So I think that was a great strategy from when I saw it.
Yeah, third party makes sense.
And I'll also say that it doesn't always have to be an uncomfortable conversation. It will get there eventually if you're doing it right. But like, just to start off, there are some leaders in position that I have met locally here in the tech industry who I absolutely love talking to them, because most of the time the initial conversation is, hey, yeah, don't want my workforce to look like old white men, which is what I am. I realize this. And so they're very self-aware, and they'll come to us and they'll say, I want to hire diverse folks. And these are folks in chief CXO positions, right? So this is a great conversation to have with that person. And then on top of that, having they take it a step further, to your point, Ed, to say, I'm also looking to identify who the future leaders are in my team so that I can upskill them, because I plan on retiring and living my life on the beach somewhere at some point in life, right? So making sure that they are mentoring and opening the door behind them. So there's um if you reach out to organizations like ours, where we get to have multiple conversations with different leaders in the industry, you can always reach out to your local resources to say, hey, I'm interested in having this kind of conversation with my leadership. What has been um, a conversation that has been successful with these other chief executives who are already on board, right? So that they can give you those best practices, give you a perspective from that executive point of view.
Love it. We have one last question, and I'll end with the rising question for everyone, and I'll go first. This last one is: are there any emerging trends or innovations in DEI strategies that specifically target Latinx workforce participation that you find promising or impactful? Sergio, Ed, Jessie, anyone?
Repeat it one more time for me.
Sorry, that was me tired on a Friday. Are there any emerging trends or innovations in DEI strategies that specifically target Latinx workforce participation that you find promising or impactful?
I wanted to mention really quick, I think Ed mentioned this, but the employee research groups within the organizations, I find them very helpful. This is a platform for employees, like, to, just connect and share like their concerns and maybe just to advocate for their own needs. So I think that's one of the best initiatives.
Agreed.
Yeah, I love ERG groups, especially when there's money behind them. But the other piece is, if you're so in Austin, we have seen employers who are really interested in not only hiring specific Latino groups, whatever, you know, um, adjective you want to add in there, they will reach out to the chamber that is specific to that group, let them know of their interest. The chambers usually have a workforce and training department, and they will put on things like a hiring fair that just so happen to be put on by like the Latino chamber or the Asian chamber, LGBTQA plus chamber, workforce solutions. It not necessarily specific to the Latino organization, but it's a model that can be replicated for this. In January, we are partnering with Austin Women in Tech to provide a hiring fair and a thought leadership event. So employers don't have to come to us and be like, hey, we don't want to talk to any men in the room. We just want to hire the women. Like, that's not okay. But you can go to the Austin Women in Tech hiring fair, right? So there's different ways to go about it so that you can connect with people who already have their roots in the community.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm seeing that innovative is the artificial intelligence technology approach. So one of the things I've talked about with a lot of leaders about this specific technology and just its application is what component of control can we have for that? Because from what we've known is that in job descriptions, AI is discriminatory, right? Because if it's not in the job language as stated, fixing the job description would, help, right? But it goes a little bit further than that, right? If we're able to manipulate the technology to the point where we can look for inclusive hiring through artificial technology instead of using the negative towards it. And I've found strategies, groups like the Blank Slate Group and Kieran and NVIDIA and Lewis Stewart are kind of shifting that direction, saying, well, why don't we use the technology to actually be inclusive as opposed to what it's been, which has been exclusive. And one of the things that those companies are doing as well, like with Lewis, a wonderful African American man, he's doing great stuff in California. with NVIDIA and that artificial technology group is they're putting people like him who deserved it, who are educated, smart, people of color, who are leading those initiatives, who are decision makers. And as you can see, when somebody like him is in charge, he's able to direct the conversation where it needs to go. So if we have the right minds in place, if we put leaders of colors in place, I guarantee you we can definitely begin to see real traction on this DEI, on DEI being a real thing, not just ad lib.
I love it. And that's how we try to end all of our panels is, a half glass full mindset like that, Ed. So how we try to end everything is about how do you want to rise and how do you want to help the community you're trying to serve. So for me, I keep rising every day, trying to help all populations, especially Latinx populations, because recently we've had a lot of immigrants, right, come to Chicago. And, I keep rising every day and fighting for this because I want people to be viewed as equal, not as, different, right? And so I know so many Chicagoans are trying to come together to solve this problem. And I really hope that we all keep rising together through that. So I'll hand it over to anyone that wants to add anything about rising before we end the call. It could be about your career, how you want to help people, whatever you wish, just ending on a positive note here.
I'm really excited for the next generation of the tech workforce because so from our point of view, business leaders, tech leaders, let's get out into the community. Let's give them some career awareness. Let's question that, challenge their thinking so that we can let them know there's so many different avenues that you can go into a specific career in an industry, no matter your personality type, no matter your skill set. And then on top of that, we are in this next industrial revolution. We get to be part of the conversation of how it impacts our society and our businesses. We are very fortunate to be at this precipice where we get to have a say in the conversation. And this next generation of leaders is going to be brought up already like innate AI skills is going to be ingrained in this next generation. And so getting to hear from them, getting them ready and confident and excited about what they can do with the technology is extremely exciting, and especially when it's becoming available and accessible to all kinds of um, traditionally marginalized populations. We just need to make sure that we're doing the work to have the conversation so we shape it the way we want it and get it into the hands of people who may not have otherwise thought that
Yeah,
they could do anything with it. So it's very exciting time to be alive.
agreed. Ed or Sergio?
Just to piggyback off Jesse, plus one on everything you said. In fact, Latinas, you lead. We're definitely watching. You guys deserve a place at the table, and awesome to see all the good work you're doing over there in Austin, Jesse. So just that.
I wanted to say that too, Jesse. Like you, literally, I think I'm gonna need to contact you later after, so I can learn from you because I love what you've been saying. But yeah, I mean, I'm very happy. Like just like thank you, Matt, for having me here. Like I really want everyone to just like maybe continue working, providing like facilitating that path for Latinos and Latinas because we really need it, and it's very helpful to be part of this type of webinars. Obviously, I'm learning, and I like to learn from all of you, and it just makes me feel it empowers me, And if we just do it with more people, that's gonna be we're just gonna have a really good outcome. But thank you.
Yeah, I've
Awesome.
learned a lot from everybody on this call. Thank you very much. And yeah, please connect with me, not only the other panelists, but anybody who's watching. Feel free to connect with me. I love having these conversations and I learn something new from everybody.
Well, thanks everyone for being part of the panel. And let's keep rising. I'll see you all later. Thanks.